So welcome everybody to another outstanding edition of Bilfo in the Ring. I am your host, the harbinger of truth, the Black Messiah, the anointed one, Mr. Money on the mic, a man of many names, but you guys can call me Jeremy Prophet. Happy to be here, happy to have you invite me into your homes, and today I am joined by a very special guest, by someone that I've only recently gotten to know, but someone who's kind of taken the wrestling world by storm, someone who's already taken the interview world by storm, soon to be taken commentary to the next level, and who has thrived at just being so present all across social media, an influencer on many platforms, and someone who you can see in MLW on a regular basis, someone who is part of Impact Wrestling, AEW. The list goes on, and above all else, another great Canadian, much like myself, the one, the only, the talented Alicia Atout. Welcome to the show.
What an intro. You even said my last name right. So happy to be here, Jeremy. Thank you for having me. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, no doubt. With two great Canadians like us, two entertaining people, how can you go wrong? And
exactly.
Speaking of your last name, that's interesting because when I first saw it, it was interesting to me because I don't know if you realize this, but Atout is actually French. I don't know. Are you familiar with what it means?
So I was told a really long time ago that somehow it translates to wild, but otherwise I have no bloody idea. Like, no idea.
I guess in some context it could translate to that, I guess. No, I'm just kind of BSing. I don't think it does translate to that. But in French, un atout is equivalent to saying like a plus or an advantage. Kind of
I'll take that.
Yeah, if someone has an atout on someone else, it means they have an advantage over them. So I think that's pretty bad.
Hell yeah. That's pretty damn dope, actually. Okay, I didn't know it was that. I've looked it up before, and then you always get like attoulement and stuff. You never actually get anything to the point. I was like, you know what? Whatever. It can be whatever the hell people want to interpret it as. So, most of the time I just end up getting fart jokes anyways. But now, screw all of y'all. It's actually a cool meaning.
I know that when I was told you were going to be on the show, I think Hannibal had actually referred to you as a tout. And I had to kind of correct him, like, no, I think it's a toot.
Right. No, you nailed it. You had it correct.
Yeah, cool. Well, I do my research here, and I am the harbinger of truth, so I try to get to the finer details of matters. But it's interesting with you because you've had such a meteoric rise throughout the world of wrestling and even interviews. And it's always cool for me to see a fellow Canadian, reach a level of success. Especially in the professional wrestling game where, we don't have things in our favor, much like our brothers to the south. But I think when I first discovered you, it was during the pandemic. Kind of got word of what was going on with you and Salina De La Renta. Was pretty much just, everywhere on social media. And
the worst.
Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later. I got to save the best for last and keep the people hooked into the episode. But definitely, we'll be covering Salina in detail. But that's where I first kind of discovered you. Didn't know you were Canadian until I was on another podcast called Straight Talk with George. I think you've appeared on there too. And George was the one who told me that you were actually Canadian. So, I liked you even more when I saw that and saw that, you're breaking boundaries here for us here in the Great White North. So that's really awesome. I got to say, making the transition from interviewer in music and then into wrestling, and starting so young, how does that all come together?
Well, honestly, a lot of this is just thanks to my dad. The reason I love the bands I love is because of him. And I started watching wrestling when I was about 2 or 3 because of my dad as well. I'd kind of just be sat on the couch with him, a bunch of his buddies. So when I was 16 or 17, I started a music blog, where I would just kind of write a bunch of random reviews and talk about songs I loved. No one was reading this shit. But at the time, I was like, this is just my passion. I love it. Then I got to the point where I'd go to concerts with my family and my dad said, why don't you just pull this band aside and ask them a couple questions? So I did. I used to call them my 2Q video interviews. And from there, people started watching them. And then I started getting in contact with companies like Warner and Universal and Sony, and they started giving me big bands. So once I started locking down like the Motorheads, Metallicas, the Yoko Onos of the world, my site started to get some popularity. And then it was because of my dad. He said, hey, you love wrestling too. Why don't you start going to local indie shows here in Canada and start interviewing wrestlers as well for your site? And I was like, you know what? let's do it. This could be really fun. It could be different. And honestly, the rest is just history. Like, so cheesy to say, but it happened organically. It was never something I kind of had my eyes set on. But as soon as I started, I was absolutely hooked. Like, this industry is so infectious. Now I do more wrestling stuff than music. It's just bizarre. So yeah, it's been a crazy journey. And in terms of kind of going from interviewing bands to wrestling to the actual backstage stuff, I'm sure we'll probably dive into that a little bit more, but everything's been really organic. So I'm grateful for the journey and how it kind of has all happened. But at the same time, it was completely unexpected. But now I just want to conquer everything. So yeah, I'm a little
Wow.
greedy in that sense. A little greedy.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of ambition. I mean, you're
I don't
talking to
know.
a very ambitious person in my own right. And
Hmm.
believe it or not, I've kind of had a bit of a similar path because before I set foot in a wrestling ring, I actually studied in journalism. So I was kind of following that same path well before the days of YouTube, but still, getting in touch with bands, doing the entertainment thing, doing the sports thing. Lo and behold, I'm just, in college working on the local paper there, managed to get an interview with Chris Jericho for
Dope.
Fozzy at the time, and that helped to steer me, further towards wrestling. I'd end up becoming a wrestler like a couple of months later, and I guess
Wow.
amongst other things, getting the opportunity to sit here and talk with you. So this is where our paths converge. But yeah, really
It's
cool.
crazy.
And you talk about conquering everything. You've already conquered quite a bit. You worked for Impact, and you've had opportunities also with AEW, and
Yep.
now you're currently with MLW. So
Yeah.
you seem to be riding that roller coaster, and who knows what the future holds. I've seen some of your interviews. You've talked to some very high profile people in a wide variety of different industries. So it's
Yeah.
really remarkable for a 17-year-old from Toronto to have come all that way.
Yeah, it's definitely bizarre to think about because it was never something I thought. And now I'll be scrolling through my iPod and there will be probably 40 bands sometimes in a row, all in which I've sat down with or spoken to. And it just blows my mind. And I don't say that almost even in like a braggy way. It's just like, yeah, it is badass and I'm proud of it, but it just blows my mind thinking back to me as a 10-year-old loving these bands and now some of them I've befriended. So it's been crazy. The whole thing again, going back to it being organic. I went from doing the local promotions here in Toronto to working for BCW, which is owned or co-owned by Scott D'Amore, who co-owns Impact Wrestling. So they hired me to do stuff for them. And then after working with them for a little bit and hosting a Twitch show for months and months with Santino for a long time, AEW contacted me about this weird. It was weird timing. It was a kind of like I was phasing out of Impact. I was like, oh,
Sounds
okay,
like
what could
sounds like
be
good timing.
next? Yeah, it was interesting. And then that same day, I remember I was out thrifting, had just stopped working with Impact Wrestling, and I got a text from Cody. And next thing you know, I was hosting at a bunch of their shows before AEW was a thing. I did the first All In and the first Double or Nothing. And I remember after that Omega promo aired, people really started to take me seriously. So the whole adventure's been insane. And then I've been signed with MLW coming up on 2 years now. And that's been incredible, actually, just locking down and signing with a company and a great company who really spotlights not only super well known wrestlers, but also some incredible up and coming ones too. So, yeah, it's just been a crazy journey I never expected, but I am loving every damn second of it. It's been wild. It's been
Yeah.
fun.
Now, I mean, I've been a little outspoken about MLW at times because, yeah, they do spotlight a lot of people, and I do think it's a great platform for up and coming talent who maybe haven't had that level of international exposure. I do feel there's a significant lack of Canadians, but again, I don't want to really jump the gun on that one. I do want to kind of go back to your time with AEW because AEW
Sure.
right now they're doing huge business. What was it that happened there that why you decided to not stick with them and make the jump to MLW instead?
Yeah, so I was in talks with them for a little bit, and then it kind of just becomes a waiting game for a while. And I know of people who, even when it comes to WWE, they've literally had to sit on the sidelines for 8 months, and then finally they get in touch with them after a tryout or something. So it's a long process. And kind of again, when I went from Impact to AEW, I was in that standstill where I thought, do I wait for a long time? Do they even want to lock this down? Could this just be a cool thing? I did not know. So it got to the point where MLW approached me kind of in between phases, and they just had a really amazing plan set out for me. And they said, we want to make you one of the biggest stars in the brand, if not the biggest. And they've kind of backed, not kind of, they have backed that up since signing. And it's only getting bigger with them and growing even further. And it just made sense at the time. So who knows, if I didn't sign with MLW, could have got to the point where no one, I could have signed nowhere. I could have signed the next day with somebody, like who knows, but I'm to the point now where I don't give a shit about what ifs. I just kind of look forward, and I'm so happy with the decision that I happened to make. And that's not taking anything away from the opportunities that AEW did give me, because that opened so many doors for me and really made people look at me in a different light. I think a lot of people at first were pissed that I came into this business and I was getting gigs like AEW and Impact Wrestling. They're like, "Who's this girl? No one knows who she is." And I had a big following because of my music career at the time. So I had put the work in. I was going to 6 gigs a week, staying up until 4 in the morning after shows, interviewing, waking up at 7 to do research for the next night, interviewing 8 bands in the evening. So I worked my ass off to get to where I was. And then I showed up in wrestling and I was getting hired right away. So people didn't like that. Not everyone, but a lot of people. So it was a really interesting kind of phase. I don't even know why I went that way, but screw it. So yeah, it was just kind of a really crazy ride in that sense. And where I am now, though, I'm really happy with the way everything turned out. So can't look back.
Yep. Don't have to worry about going in that direction. It'll make one hell of a soundbite. But with that said, I think the question that comes to mind is, what do you feel gave you that extra edge that allowed all those doors to open? Was it your work ethic? What would you say it was?
Honestly, I bust my balls every second of the day. Like, I bust my chops. I am always trying to think of the next thing I can do. As soon as something is confirmed, my brain's on the next thing. Even while I'm trying to firm up one thing, my brain's on the next thing that I can do. Because of my parents, I've just always kind of had this hustle that's never gone away. And I'm really grateful for that, because both of them are really hard workers and really strong people. So I think from the jump, I realized, okay, if I'm not going to go to university and I'm not going to get a typical job and go that normal route, I got to really just go balls to the wall and figure this out and make this work. So one was wanting to make everyone proud who was supporting me, and two, I just wanted to do it for myself. At the beginning, I was getting free tickets for shows. I was meeting bands that I loved, and the same thing started to happen for wrestling. Like, yo, this is the life. Like, this is damn cool. So when that all started to happen, I realized this is really what I want to do. So any opportunity that came my way, even if it was something I wasn't familiar with, like, I never thought I'd be a backstage interviewer. I was just cool with doing YouTube stuff. If I said no to that, ring announcing the first time, doing commentary the first time, hosting shows, doing conventions, there's no way in hell I would be where I am today, which is nowhere near where I want to be in the end. So it's all about just taking every opportunity, even if it comes with a couple of fails, and just learning from that stuff.
All right. Well, I mean, it's a great message for anyone out there that, if you work hard at something and you just throw yourself into it, and hustle, you can make it. Definitely. I've lived by that. And I think that, it's definitely paid dividends in a lot of people's cases. Yours, I think, and my own as well. It's one of the main reasons I'm here hosting this show, because it's all about getting out there and making people see that you got something good to offer. That's what doesn't surprise me that those doors opened for you as quickly as they did, and that you worked to earn that. So now, talking about MLW, we can get into that a bit. Did you realize you're the only Canadian in MLW?
Yeah, so for a little bit, we of course had people who were Canadian, but then not. And of course, we had like a bunch of Heart Foundation people within the company. But again, it was like, no, they weren't born here. So it never was something that really occurred to me, aside from when I did my 4th show with them. And I realized I'm the only one who flew in from anywhere else, aside from a couple people came in from Puerto Rico and Mexico. So I was like, shit, I am the only Canadian. And I have a lot of pride in that. But at the same time, I would love to have more Canadians there, of course. By no means is it like, oh, look, I'm the only Canadian. Like, that's not what I want. But it was a cool factor the first time I kind of noticed, it's kind of like breaking new ground within the company in a sense. But I would love for more of us Canucks to be there, of course. And I do feel like that's something that's definitely on their minds. It's just right now, especially with the pandemic, logistics can be a pain in the ass. So but fingers crossed, though, we're able to sort this stuff out, because it would be so amazing to just see all of us over there conquering the wrestling world. It'd be awesome.
I agree with everything that you're saying, that I think that especially a company like MLW, I think they could benefit from a lot of the great talents here in Canada. I mean, look, you saw that match that I did with Speedball Mike Bailey. I think we'd be
good.
We'd be 2 outstanding performers that could help that company, and mix it up with the best of them. All the the Hammerstones and the Holidays, and all these top talents that they have, so-called top talents, that I really think a lot of us here in Canada could definitely give them a hell of a run for their money. So maybe if you get Court's ear, you can let him know that you've seen some great talents up here, and maybe we might have a little Canadian invasion.
Yeah, you never know, eh? And the thing is, too, is really has me frustrated, and this has nothing to do with the company because their ambitions are amazing. But right before the pandemic, I know that there were some sort of plans or ideas to have a Toronto show. It was something we definitely had our heart set on. So the fact that, having a hometown show, one, didn't happen, and two, we definitely would have been able to bring in so much great talent without all the bullshit you have to think of, which would have been a nice little just one-time event thing. Oh, it had me so bloody frustrated because that would have just been just amazing on so many different levels. So yeah, I really hope that this stuff will change with all companies within wrestling in the States, even countries around like the globe. It's just I feel like there's this thing with Canada and we got to change it. Yeah.
Getting back to you, we had the chance to work together for the first time, and I didn't get to hear your commentary while I was in the ring, even though I, was kind of acknowledging you guys at the desk just to kind of build some heat.
A little bit.
Yeah, there were some things I could hear, but I couldn't hear all of it. But I got to say, you did a fantastic job. I think that
Thank you.
definitely commentary. I think that could be another possible future for you, since there aren't very many women commentators. What was it like for you commentating? I think you said it was your second time, right?
Yeah, that was my second or third time doing comment. I know I told you second, so you were right on that front, but I think it was my second or third time doing commentary. And I was really excited about it because like I said before, if an opportunity comes about, even if I've never done it before, I'm going to do my best the very first chance I get. So as soon as I sat down, the mics were hot and like, hell yeah, it's time to rock and roll. And I just said what was on my mind. Of course, prior I looked into some of the talent that I was a little less familiar with, and was trying to pull up some really fun facts. I went back like 3 years on some of you guys just to find some like good nuggets, and I found some good shit. So it's just really fun for me in that sense to one, still tap into my inner interviewer slash researcher slash PI side and be able to find that stuff out and then apply it in a whole other way. And also, I love wrestling. I love watching wrestling. This is my first wrestling show I got to attend since the pandemic. And
Wow.
I got so emotional when I got back home because I just missed it, Or it was my first wrestling show in Canada. I did one for MLW back in July. But yeah, it was it was a Canadian show, and I have so much pride being Canadian, and the fact that all of us just couldn't be out there doing our thing. It was really sad. And I remember seeing all these people around the world being able to get back to doing wrestling, some a lot earlier than they should have been, but it is what it is. People out there, and I don't want to like say I was bitter, but I was, and I was kind of thinking to myself, I wish I was in their shoes. And finally I got to be, and I got to do my thing and just have fun and do interviews and try something new. So it was just it was a damn good show, and it just felt good to be back. And commentary was a blast, and I'm glad you thought it was good, because I walked away thinking, oh, I could have done that. And by no means too, I went on thinking, all right, I'm gonna do color, because both Bill and I were like, neither of us are going to do play-by-play, so I guess we're both doing color tonight. So I was like, yeah, I know some of the move sets, but for me being an interviewer, I really wanted to give more of myself to it, So I think it gelled pretty well. It was really fun, and I'm excited to do it again at some point. I know that they definitely want me back at GNW, and I'm more than happy to be there. So it was good. It was a good time.
Yep. And I'm looking forward. I know the match hasn't been released yet, but I'm really looking forward to seeing our interview that we did. I was actually given the choice. I could have had either you or Bill interview me. I requested you specifically because, like I mentioned you in my promo and stuff, and I was pretty thrilled to meet you. You are somebody in the world of wrestling. Even though, we're all just, kids here from Canada, but
right.
you are somebody. So I definitely, realized, oh, we could actually construct something that might be a little bit fun. And, I think if by the time this interview that we're doing here comes out, I'm pretty sure the match will be up. I think people will get a kick out of that little back and forth that we had. And I think we can talk about it here friendly because, I kind of baby-faced everybody once the match was done. So I would hope it's all water under the bridge.
You trickster. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. At first, I was like, what the hell is this guy doing running his mouth to me live in front of fans? Hell no. But you know what? You kind of redeemed yourself. You kind of redeemed yourself a little bit towards the end. I got a little teary-eyed, I got to say, from what you were saying. Just going back to missing being at live shows, you kind of touched on that a little bit and how much it means to be Canadian and do your thing again. So, yeah, you won me back a little bit. Just a little bit.
Okay, I'll take it because that was just, I'll be honest, I don't even know what came over me after the match. I just felt I had to speak from the heart because,
right.
I think that we all miss this, and wrestling it's such a beautiful thing. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter, the color of your skin. It doesn't matter what you believe in. wrestling unites so many people all across the world. And I think we were without it for so long that finally getting it back, it wasn't a moment to, I won the match, but it wasn't a moment to gloat or anything like that. It was a moment to just celebrate all of us together and the fact that we can do this again. So I think it just doesn't get much better than that.
It really doesn't. And you guys had one hell of a match. Like once you do hear the commentary on it, there were so many moments where, I kind of broke from just being on commentary and was just speaking, no research, no interview queen mode, just like holy shit moments, and I love that about wrestling. So it was really fun to just watch again, being a fan, a lover of wrestling and everything, and just the whole circumstance. We're all back, we're all Canadian, we're all doing what we love, and that was pretty dope. It really was.
Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. That's the main thing. I think that if everybody would focus on just giving the people what they want, the wrestling world would be so much better. It was cool, and you got to commentate it. I can't wait to hear it, and I'm sure the people will love it. Now, shifting from me to you, as I mentioned earlier, you had that very high-profile back and forth going on with Salina De La Renta, and it's kind of recently picked up between you two again, if it ever calmed down to begin with. So I got to ask, and for the few people who might not be familiar with that, because for the longest time, that's what everybody was talking about. People were not talking about AEW, WWE during the pandemic. It was you and Salina. Salina, who, by the way, I don't like very much.
No one does, Jeremy.
Doesn't surprise me. It might be a Puerto Rican thing, but that doesn't surprise me. I got to ask, how did this start between you two?
Honestly, anytime we were at shows together, even before I was signed to MLW, we would be at signings, we'd be at conventions, and she would just always look me up and down. And I thought, you know what? I get it. I don't know if you're envious. I don't know if because I'm not a wrestler, you're a little bit jealous. But you know what? I'm here now, so it's take it or leave it, or, suck it. And it got to the point where when we were both signed with MLW, she didn't want me in any of the rooms she was changing in because I needed somewhere to go. And, I was the newest person there at the time. And I was hoping, her being another female on the roster would be able to bond and I could kind of have someone there for the first few shows. And, she just completely gave zero shits, none. So got to the point where I've had enough, and she was having an upcoming match with the company where she was being in the manager role, and I just talked some shit online. I just had enough, and she responded, and next thing you know, everyone thought, what the hell is going on? We'd never seen eye to eye, and she's just an asshole. So, went from there. We bickered for a really long time. We started doing videos on my YouTube channel. She had me sign some bogus contract with a lot of iffy shit in it. It was 700 pages. And then I was able to turn things around, hired one of the best lawyers in the business. Is actually the guy who got everyone out of the Lucha Underground contracts. And now we're kind of even. We decided to be business partners because we realized we do have something going here, even though we don't like one another. So at this point, we're kind of frenemies. I'm actually going to be seeing her at the end of the month as we decided, you know what? We should kind of maybe settle this in a fight. So we're actually going to have our first fight against one another. I've been doing some strength conditioning and trying to run a lot more and get more fit, and I'm ready to kick her ass. I'm not gonna lie, I'm ready for this. It's about time someone shuts her up.
I definitely think it's about time someone shuts her up. I gotta say, what I liked in the rivalry is I feel that she, clearly had a bit of a troubled life. Clearly she's got a certain rough edge about her. I feel you kind of more or less, you kept your poise, your dignity. You came across as the one with definitely a lot more class, which is very ironic considering that that's literally in her name. But with that said, I do think that you tried to definitely take the higher road on many occasions.
I tried.
But I got to admit there was some funny stuff, and to her credit, she can cut one mean promo.
And that's why I hate her so much. I hate how she's actually good at speaking. It drives me bloody mad. And it's one of those things where I'll spit back, and yes, I'll definitely get the upper hand a lot of the time. She always has a comeback, and the weird thing is, and I hate to admit it, she keeps me on my toes. And I think that's why she loves to hate me, and I don't think she'll ever admit it. She'll never admit it. And that's why she agreed to the whole frenemy thing. I think she deep down likes me, and she likes the fact that I don't give up and the fact I can give it back. Because a lot of people can't. But at the same time, she'll always be a dick.
Well, it is what it is, but if ever you do need any help, believe me, I'm more than willing to be your ghostwriter. I think I could come up with a lot of promo
Appreciate you.
material. There's definitely a lot of stuff there that I could construct into some. I did my research on her too, So
Yeah.
when it comes down to it, I got a few little things. If ever you need some extra ammunition, I got you covered. Now you said this is going to be a fight. I noticed you didn't say this is a
Yes.
wrestling match. So
Mhm.
so am I to understand that this is going to take place? What is it going to be on the streets? Is it going to be what are we going to do?
So we are doing actually a couple of different things. We're having a bunch of fans who are willing to sponsor these fights, and the whole reason that we're calling them fights rather than matches is because I have never come out and said, "Hey, I'm a wrestler." That's not. I feel like it would be wrong of me to say that. I haven't put in the training. I have not put in the work, and it's not fair to people like you who have actually busted their chops to get to where you are in that sense. However, I can throw down and I can talk shit. So it got to the point where when I kind of approached her saying, "Hey, let's settle this. Let's see who will win. Let's kind of do a little tournament of matches as sponsored by the fans and see who ends up on top." So she accepted. That's why we're advertising it as a fight rather than a match. I have gear that's being made right now for it, and we're taking this very seriously. I'm actually pumped for it because this is something people have wanted since the beginning of the pandemic, since we started doing these videos and things got real hot. And we want to show that although we don't see eye to eye, we see eye to eye on a couple things. And a couple of those things are that two females can dominate in wrestling and both of them not necessarily be known for being wrestlers. And the fact we're able to stir the pot as much as we have is something I think we're both really proud of. So yeah, a lot has gone into this, but definitely ready for these fights that are coming up. I'm preparing every single day.
Are you thinking maybe of doing like a home and home series? Like maybe you go down to Puerto Rico or down to Florida and you fight her on her turf, then she's got to come up to Toronto and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we have a lot of plans for it. We've had a bunch of fans request some different things. We have a few different settings in mind when I'm gonna be seeing her in a couple weeks down in Orlando. So we have a lot going on. We're gonna be filming in some interesting spots I don't think people would expect.
Well, I'm definitely intrigued by that. And I got to
Yep.
say, being the harbinger of truth, like I got to maybe give you a fair warning because let's face it, she was a wrestler at one point.
Eh,
Now,
eh.
now, 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 I know she had a bit of she's kind of made out of glass. She had a couple of injuries. Take it from someone who's done this 16 years. Never had an injury, never had a concussion. There are some people you'll run into that maybe they're not cut out to be in the ring, and maybe that was her. So you kind of have that in your favor. But
Mhm.
she's been in those kinds of situations. You don't strike me as the kind of person who's been in a lot of street fights. But maybe that's just because you don't look all beat up and mangled and like the kind of girl we'd see like let's say in a UFC octagon.
Nope. I'm full of surprises, and I think that's one of the things a lot of people don't expect. When they find out a lot of the music I'm into, when they find out just random things about me, I think they're very surprised. I think a lot of people see this sweet girl, oh so innocent, and it's because like I'm not putting on a front. That's genuinely me, but there are a lot of layers to this human being right here, and she's rattled me a couple times, and she's definitely shed some of those off, and I'm willing to show a lot more. So although I have never actually stepped into a ring, the amount of seminars I've sat in on simply because I was there just to interview. And I thought, you know what, let's just learn some extra knowledge. Maybe I can apply it to an interview. So the amount of those I've sat in on, it's ridiculous. The amount of times that I've actually been in a ring, not a lot, but I know a couple things. And again, a lot of it I think is going to come down to just shit talking each other a lot. And although she can be quick, I think I'm gonna rattle her with how much preparation I've done going into these fights. So yeah, and again, like if you've seen her wrestling, I don't even know if you can really say she's a wrestler. So let's just be honest here. She's no, it's really
So,
bad.
so I guess in other words, I know I haven't seen her wrestle that much, but I guess in other words, what you're saying is that pretty much her wrestling falls about as flat as she thinks the earth is.
Yes, 100%. You could definitely say that. Yep.
Yeah, kind of what I thought. I got to say, it's kind of funny too that she had the little falling out there with Hannibal, if I'm not mistaken, and now you're working
Yeah, it's
for him.
weird.
So I'm sure that's kind of got to dig at her too.
Oh yeah, when I announced that, I'm pretty sure she must have been pissed. Like, there's no way she didn't see it because as soon as I announced it, people were psyched that I finally had a Canadian show again. It's getting retweeted by a bunch of notable people. So yeah, there's no way she did not see that. It must have definitely pissed her off. And you know what? Awesome. I'm down for that. I didn't have to do anything, I just had a booking, and next thing you know, I'm pissing off Salina De La Renta. Hell yeah.
Yeah. Well, when it comes down to it, I mean, look, I would never bet against the Canadian, but just in seeing the two of you, seeing your characters, and the fact that you chose to follow me on Twitter and she did not, I gotta say, 110% of my support. right behind you.
Appreciate you so much.
Yeah, I'm telling you, if you need a hype man, I got you covered here. But
Yeah, for real.
what I'm thinking here is now with this, is this maybe the first step to you becoming a full-time wrestler?
I don't know. I feel like I've been telling people for 4 years now I've been in the world of wrestling. I'm never gonna wrestle. And it's just I have a passion for wrestling. I don't think I have a passion for being a wrestler. But then again, who knows what's gonna happen in a couple weeks' time when I do step into that ring and the other spots we're planning on having these brawls, and dare I say I could get the bug? I don't know. I'm more excited for the gear, honestly. I'm not gonna lie. So we'll see. That's the thing. That's why I said I'm not gonna label myself as a wrestler. We're not calling them wrestling matches because I don't want to negate anything from anything that you guys do. I don't want people to think, wow, this interviewer thinks she can wrestle and she's never trained. Like, that's not what it's about at all. So, it's that fine line of respect. People can see that I'm having a fight or a match or whatever they want to call it and take it however they want. But I'm telling you, this is gonna stir a lot of shit online. And you know what? I'm happy for it. Love me or hate me, still an obsession. Like, I'm that kind of person where all press is good press, so bring it on.
Because, I got to look at that and say, I kind of think that the person I was speaking to maybe about 15, 20 minutes ago who said she's willing to work her balls off and do everything she has to fulfill her ambition, sounds to me like I think wrestling might be in your future. Interviewer, commentator, wrestler.
I don't know. Sometimes I'll be sitting there doing my thing on the sidelines. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's not that I think, oh, I can do that, but I think I could eventually do that. So it's definitely a thought that's crossed my mind. It's just a matter of, will it happen? We'll see.
Well, that's a pretty good cliffhanger to leave the people on. And ironically, we're kind of, winding things down here. And you've given us such great insight into so many things. I hope to one day be able to, be on your show. And we can have the flip side of this interview because I think we got a pretty good thing going here. But before we leave, just like to let the people know where they can find you, where they can see all the stuff that you've been up to. So the floor is yours. Let them know.
Well, we'll definitely do something where you come on to my show because, as I said, I'm like a professional stalker, so I'll find some dirt on you to get you back for that promo. No, I'm kidding. But honestly, if you guys want to learn more, if you knew about me prior, thank you so much for all the support. If this is your first time listening to me talk, I hope you enjoyed my ramblings on here. But if you want to know more, just type Alicia Atout, Atout, in your Google boxes. From there, you will find all of my verified social pages, along with my Patreon page, merch store. You can watch me on MLW. There's some big things coming your way. But for now, you can watch me on Saturdays at noon on Vice TV with MLW. And I also am a host for Knotfest, the music festival owned by Slipknot. So I work for Slipknot. So I host a daily show for them on Twitch every single weekday at 4 p.m. EST, 1 p.m. PT. So if you love metal music or anything that's a little heavier and you enjoy listening to me talk, check it out. It's a blast. So yeah, that's where you can find me. And again, thank you so much, Jeremy, for having me on.
Well, the pleasure is definitely all ours. Thank you for accepting this gracious invite. I look forward to working with you again in Great North Wrestling and entertaining the people, giving them their money's worth. And I look forward to those fights you're going to have with Salina. Like I said, my money's on you. I think you can take her. And I think it's going to be a treat for everybody involved. So with that said, we've pretty much come to the end of our show here. Once again, thank you ever so much. And to those of you watching at home, thanks to you guys too. Because without you, we wouldn't be here. So with that said, remember that wrestling is life.